You're listening to a Frequency Podcast Network production.
The Brock and Dalby Podcast.
This is the Brock and Dalby Podcast.
Welcome to Friday. My name is Brock.
I'm Dalby.
We took the day off because I went to Blink 182 technically last night.
How was it?
I don't know.
I hope that it's good. I hope that you had a good time.
I'm excited for Blink. It'd be, the 7th time that I've seen them.
Damn, I don't know if there's a band I've seen. I mean, I've seen some smaller bands that, are local to different areas I've lived in a number of times. Maybe the Glorious Sons might be the closest I've seen to 7 times.
Yeah, I think I've seen the Glorious Sons 5 times. I think it's I've seen Blink 7 times. There's a band called Parkway Drive that I've seen about 6 times.
Yeah.
And that's probably the big ones. Bad Religion I've seen 4 times, I guess.
I've seen Metallica 3 or 4 times. That's up there. I saw The Hip 3 times. And there's a band called Whale and the Wolf that most people probably haven't heard of. They're bigger out west in Canada, and I've seen them probably a dozen times. But also the lead singer was in my wedding party.
Yeah.
That's a little bit we've all seen our buddies' bands way more than we've seen big bands. You know what I'm talking about?
And everybody thinks their buddies' bands are gonna get big. There was a band, I won't even say their name, but out in Saskatchewan that I got really close with.
Oh,
and I thought
know
they were
who
gonna
you're
pop
talking
off.
about.
They started touring with some Canadian bands.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it's I just hadn't heard from the guys in a year, and then I looked at their Instagram and I'm like, oh, I don't think they're a band anymore.
I don't think they're doing stuff.
Me and Cordy had it planned that if we ever get married, they'd play at our wedding.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Even for me, because at a previous radio station out in the prairies, I was what's known as the music director, which for those that don't work in radio means that in charge of getting music kind of scheduled for, but also having some input into new songs and new bands that we're playing. And there was a few bands that I'm here to name any names, but there were bands that I championed that got on the radio, were starting to blow up because our station was playing them so much. Other stations started picking them up. And I always thought to myself, I'm one day that band's going to be super big and they're going to look back and they're going to thank me in their Hall of Fame speech. None of them still do stuff. Some of them still play shows, but they're not big.
Canadian bands are limited edition item menus at McDonald's, where you're oh, this is sick, and then you're why don't you bring it back? What happened to it?
It's so wrong.
10 years later, people are bring back the Szechuan sauce, man.
It's so wrong to think of your favorite small band that nobody else caught on to as the McRib of music. That sucks.
They come back every once in a while.
Every now and again they pop up, but it's just
Canadian
not the
bands
same.
to a fucking T, man. What's the most random concert you've ever been to?
The most random concert I've ever been to. You may not even know the name. Susan Aglukark.
No.
She is an Inuvialuit singer.
It's a throat singer?
Kind of, but also pop singer that was big when I was in my teens, maybe even before you were born.
Yeah.
Had a big hit song called OCM.
Yeah.
Which had the big Inuit drums and the throat singing in the background. Dude, it was a huge song.
Yeah.
And she played at the arena down the street from us when we were living in Grand Prairie, Alberta. And of course, being from the Northwest Territories, my parents were she's the best. She's the greatest singer of all time. So when she came to town, we bought tickets and they played that OCM song early in the set list. And I asked my parents if I could walk home. They just gave me the keys. And I walked 4 blocks back to the house and jumped on the trampoline.
Very memorable for sure.
Yeah.
I've seen some weird ones. My mom took us to see Janet Jackson when I was a kid because it was supposed to be her last tour.
Oh, okay.
I remember sitting in the audience and she did a strip tease on a guy and I was 8 years old. And when she was I need a guy to come up on stage, I raised my hand and my mom just put it down. And I remember for years thinking that could have been me.
That could have been me.
She took me to see Madonna, which my mom's a big Madonna fan.
Sure.
And she was there was the next year I was 9 years old and my mom was I don't even know if you can tell your friends about this. It's going to be a scandalous, very provocative show.
That's right.
We went out there and I was 9, but this was this old ass lady dancing around. My mom was talking about it like it was going to be an orgy or something.
But that's the thing, man.
It wasn't that cool.
Madonna had that rep back in the day. She pushed a lot of boundaries. Madonna is the reason that, what's that shit? WAP? The WAP song?
Yeah.
She's the reason shit like that exists in the mainstream now because it was scandalous back then. But by the time you would have got there, yeah, it was kind of like this is on MTV.
Seeing Madonna live was like someone showing you an old movie and being like, "This is so good."
Right.
Like, look at all the stuff that they did, the special effects, and then you watch and you're like, "This sucks."
Yeah,
Like,
I'm sure at the time this blew your fucking mind, but Casablanca doesn't hit the same way in 2024.
one of the best concerts I ever went to was Etienne.
Etienne, is he a French rapper?
He's a French rapper, but maybe your daughter went to Alex went to French immersion for a bit, right?
For 1 year, but I would say more like their school does this thing. There's this Canada-wide thing called Many Musical, which is teaching Anglo kids about Francophone music.
Okay.
So my two kids have both gotten sort of immersed in French music over the last couple of years, and I feel like I've heard of this.
So Etienne is like, it's for kids to learn French, and our teacher in the 5th grade would play it here. I'm gonna go on YouTube. Etienne. They're all like the verbs and stuff here.
Okay.
We went to Kitchener-Waterloo. They took a busload of us from our school in the 6th grade.
Yeah.
And then it was a whole like auditorium packed with kids going nuts. And here, let's see. It's kind of hot, but it's all like learning verbs and stuff. When does it kick in here?
Come on. No way you know the words.
Yo, in the 5th or 6th grade, this would get us hype, man. And that's how we learned all the verbs and stuff.
My brother in Christ, you still mispronounce the word poutine sometimes. You're telling me you used to listen to verb conjugation and banger rap songs?
I don't know if this guy is still a thing. That's got 472,000 views on YouTube.
Damn, got us beat by a bit.
Oh, is there another one here? Let me see. He was fire, dude. And the crowd was hype. For the kids were going nuts.
Yeah. Nobody asked for this to go this hard. He has no right.
It was just one dude by himself, and yo, you would have thought like Snoop Dogg was on stage or something. Kids are bouncing. Look at the video. They're like waving their hands.
So into it.
Yeah, I don't know if Etienne's out there, but mad respect to my boy Etienne, man.
My boy Etienne. So you went and saw him live, eh?
We saw him live. That honestly was one of the sickest things I've ever seen live. I would do it again. Honestly.
You would, like, if he was in town tomorrow, you're going.
Although to be the only adult at the Etienne show is suspect.
You can take my kids.
Yeah.
It's like your whole plan of wanting to go to like splash pads as an adult. You can borrow a kid to go to Etienne.
Oh man. Oh, what was something else I wanted to talk about? Oh yeah, I got. I did something so stupid last night.
Nice.
I got caught lying by Courtney.
Oh God, what did you do?
Nothing like super serious, and it was stupid. It's stupid, and like I think any guy can relate that. It's like on Tuesday I was doing some laundry, and I went downstairs, and by like our light switch, the dimmer switch, she had one of those, I don't know, those scented things that you plug into the wall, you know?
Scentsy?
Yeah.
The
whatever.
wax melters, right?
Not the wax melter, but it's got whatever. It's got a bunch of shit in it that makes the room smell
like a
good.
Glade plug-in?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
And then she had bought this thing that went around it, and it's like a hand holding an orb, whatever.
Sure.
Some chick shit. Like
That sounds cool, though.
yeah. And so I was holding the laundry basket, and I went to turn off the dimmer switch, and my hand hit this thing, and it broke the weird orby thing off. And it was just hanging there, and I'm like, well, maybe if I just set it still,
Sure.
it'll whatever.
I can fix it.
And I totally forgot about it. I just left this in one place.
Didn't even use glue or nothing.
Yo, we're getting ready for bed last night, and all of a sudden Courtney's like, "Are you serious?"
Oh no.
I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Who broke this?" And I don't even know what she's talking about. I'm like, "What?" And she comes up and shows me. She's like, "Did you break this?" And I forgot that I did at first, so I was like, "Nah, I didn't break it." And then she's like, "Well, then who broke it?" Because they set it in place.
Yeah.
And I was like,
it's not like you guys got roommates or kids.
and for some reason I realized, I'm like, well, you already said no, so you can't go back on that.
You gotta follow through.
I was like, well, I don't know, it wasn't me. Like, and she's like, well, then who fucking did it then? Because nobody's been in our house. She's like, also, it's set up upside down. It's supposed to be like this. So I put it in the wrong way, too.
No, you fucked up.
So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, man. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I must have bumped it or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. And she's like, well, it was literally working like 2 days ago. And then I was just like, yeah, I don't know. I must have been me. Like, I'm just trying to like dodge it because I'm like, I've already lied, and it like sucks to go back on your lie.
And the problem is that you tried to fix it, because if you just left
I
it,
didn't try and fix it. I just tried to leave it as if she would break it, maybe.
But if you had left it like hanging, or if you had like if it had fallen on the ground and you'd left it there, then you could have been like, oh my God, maybe I did break it and I just didn't know. I'm so sorry.
She was so cheesed at me last night, and she just
Rightfully so.
wasn't talking to me, and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go to bed, whatever. And then like I'm starting to be defensive because I know that I'm a liar.
Right. You're mad at yourself, but
Dude,
it's projecting.
I went full little kid mode last night. I was laying in bed, and like she's sitting downstairs, and I was just like thinking about it, and I'm like, oh man, I'm a liar. Why did I lie? And like I don't know why I had this weird guilty conscience thing come
Crisis
over.
of conscience.
Dude, I went down the stairs and I was like, just wanted to say I'm sorry to you for lying. She's like, I fucking knew you were lying.
You're trying to have this really heartfelt moment.
She's like, why lie? And I'm like, I don't know, because I lied. And then I can't go back on the lie because then I thought you'd be more mad. She's like, I'm more mad that I knew you were lying.
Yeah.
She's like, you couldn't even look me in the eyes when you said it.
Buddy, I tell my 8-year-old the same thing. I'm going to be way more mad at you for lying than I will be for the thing you did wrong.
She's like, nobody has been in our house in a week except for me and you. She's like, who did it? Like,
it's such a bad lie.
I've always had such a guilty conscience with lying.
Yeah.
Like, I can tell like little like white fibs and stuff, but if I know that you're mad at me,
right,
I can't do it. I mean, it all stems from like when I was a kid, I went to this like bike store in Burlington, and they had a bunch of BMX magazines there.
Oh, okay.
And I just grabbed one from the thing. I thought they were free, right?
Like when you go to like grocery stores, have those little community magazines.
Yeah. I thought they were free, and then so like we left, we get in the car, and we're almost home, and I'm like flipping through this BMX magazine, and my mom's like, where'd you get that?
Wait, where'd that come from?
I was like, they were giving them out at the store. And she's like, they were giving them out? And I was like, yeah. And then she took it from me, and she's like, what's this? And shows me like the price tag on it. And I was like, no, the guy said I could have it. And she's like, oh, really?
Oh, so you started lying. You realized you were wrong and started lying.
She whipped like 10 minutes across town to go back to the store.
Oh, no.
The guy at the bike store. And I'm like, no, it's fine. I don't want it. And she's like, no, we're going in. And then she's like, who told you? And I was like, that guy. She went and grabbed the guy.
You picked a guy?
I was like 5, 6 years old. And she's like, did you tell him he could take this magazine? And he's like, no.
Oh.
And then like pulls him aside, and the guy like leans down and he's like, hey, buddy, you know, stealing really isn't cool.
Damn.
He's like, I could call the cops for this.
Whoa.
Yeah, like he gave me the kind of hard thing. And he's like, but you know what? I'm going to let it slide this one time. As long as, and he did this, like he went down on one knee and he's like, look me in the eyes. He's like, if you promise me you'll never steal again.
Damn.
He's like, I'll give you the magazine.
Holy hell.
And my mom's like, no, you can keep she wouldn't let me keep the magazine out of fucking principles. I'll tell you this, man. It's made lying a lot harder for me.
Yeah.
And I genuinely, honest to God, I've never stolen anything in my life since.
Wow. So your mom hit you with the life lesson. You got this scared straight.
Yeah.
And then here you are knocking orbs off of Glade Light.
Everyone used to call me a pussy because in high school there was a dollar store right by the high school, and everyone would just go snag chocolate bars and stuff.
Oh my God.
And I'd be the kid that would stand outside and I'd be like, yo, grab me an O. Henry. Everyone would just be like, get your own. And I'd
Get your own fucking, go steal your own chocolate
be like,
bar.
I'm the lookout, man. That's what I'm doing.
That's crazy to have a moral stand of like, I'm going to go into the dollar store and I'm going to steal from somebody. Like, I'm going to steal from this store.
Yeah.
And then your buddy's like, yo, steal something from me. Get your own. What the fuck? Like, it's such a weird line in the sand to draw of like, if I steal an O. Henry, that's fine. 2, I'm going to get caught. What the fuck,
If
Brock?
I start stealing stuff for you now, how are you going to develop as a human being, you know? Like, you got to do things yourself sometimes.
That's the excuse I give my kids when I won't let them win at Mario Kart.
Oh man, stealing like trips me out. When I was graduating high school, I went to a Comic-Con with this girl I was dating. And I remember we were looking at these T-shirts, and I watched her grab one and put it in her purse. And I was like, what are you doing?
You're freaking out.
You gotta put that back. And she's like, shut the fuck up.
You fucking narc.
And we started walking away. Dude, we're in this huge place in Niagara Falls. And I'm walking. I'm like, we're fucked. Someone saw us. Every time we walked by the booth, I was like, had my head down.
Yeah.
Like, dude, if I got caught doing something by the cops, like, I'm done. Like,
you're not the accomplice.
Yeah.
You're not the guy to go down.
I'm not saying I'd snitch out the crew, but like,
Sure.
there'd be signs that they knew that I was a part of it, you know? Be like, are you mad at me?
I have stolen on 2 occasions and got caught both times. It was not good either time. One, there used to be a little convenience store across the street from the school that kids would all go to during recess and lunchtime to get like drinks, chocolate bars, stuff like that. Plus they had arcade games, little pool table, foosball. It was the spot, right? And I would go in, and I really like chocolate milk, but I never had money for it. So I would go in with other people because I was hanging out with them, and then they'd all be buying stuff. And finally, I one day was just like, well, I want a chocolate milk. Took one.
And that's the day you get caught?
I got out the store, and I remember her name. Gladys was the name of the woman who worked at the store.
Probably a tough bitch with a name like that.
Oh, my God. She looked like a salty old trucker, and she came outside. She knew who I was. That's how small the town was. Drew. Hi. What's in your backpack? I have mirrors, you know. She goes, oh, fuck's sake. God, I'm so sorry. I lost my shit. I was like, I'll never do it again. I'm so sorry.
You know what's sad? You say the mirrors thing. It only wasn't until like maybe 5-6 years ago that finally one day I realized that's what those were for.
Oh, to catch people stealing?
I always had the mentality of like parking garages that it was to see around the corner if you were like gonna bump into someone.
Yeah.
I never realized that it was to catch people thieving. Like,
oh, yeah. Well, hey, on that day, I learned a lesson very young. The only other time was after I found out that my parents enjoyed a little bit of the cabbage from time to time, and I found out where their stash was. Weed was $20 a joint in Hay River. I couldn't afford that.
$20 a joint?
$20 a
Holy
joint.
crap.
It was crazy, dude. So you would go, or sorry, no, not a joint, a gram, three joints.
I was gonna say someone was fucking you over.
No,
on
but
that.
there was places that we would play against in like tournaments from higher in the Northwest Territories.
Yeah.
They were the $20 a gram ones. The
Oh,
ones
it's like how groceries get more expensive the more north you go.
Yeah. The lettuce also gets more expensive.
So what, you stole some weed from your mom?
I started pinching from my mom, and then as I kept getting away with it, I got a little more, so went from a pinch to a nug to a handful. Boys, I got tonight, don't worry. And then one day I went to go do a pinch before I was going out, and they left the container there, and all it said was, stop stealing my fucking dope. There was a Post-it note instead of the joints inside.
That's awesome.
And I was just like, oh no. We didn't talk about it for like 6 months. After I found it, I just tried to pretend like I never found it. Why would I find it? I didn't even know you did that.
It's kind of the whole mentality of just don't say anything.
Exactly,
right?
yeah. It was just like you putting the orb back up on the little plug-in. It's like, if I don't acknowledge that I broke it, or in this case that I stole it, then you can't. Are you going to accuse me? And she doesn't want to have that conversation.
That's the best thing as a kid. It's just like that. I don't want to talk about it with my parents, and like if you don't talk about it, it's just going to die out.
Yeah.
I when my parents got divorced, it was like I lived with my mom, and then like my sister lived with my dad for a bit before she went to university. And I went through this phase of like, my mom worked night shifts at Woodbine Casino.
Oh, okay.
So she'd piece at night, and instead of going into the shed, instead of going outside, I would burn in my room. And then the next morning, it'd be like she'd come home, she'd send me a text when I was in like second period, getting mad at me that the room smelled like weed. It was this ongoing thing. And then one night, I thought she went to work. She didn't. She had the night off. I thought she was gone already. So, like, I light up. I'm burning a joint in my room.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden I hear, like, doot, the footsteps coming down the stairs. And, dude, it was, like, a reoccurring thing of getting in shit with my mom about this. And I was like, fuck, what do I do? I just, like, I hopped in my bed. I opened my laptop, and I don't know why I did it, but it's a foolproof plan. My mom opened the door, and she's like, what are you doing in here? And I was like, get out of here. I'm jerking off.
No! Jeez.
She closed the door, ran up the stairs. To this day, To this day, we have never talked about it before.
Do you think she knew? Do you think she knew that you were scamming her? Do you think she's finding out?
I don't think she wanted to know. I think as a parent, like, that's one of those fine lines that you're like, too personal.
Do you think she's finding out right now?
If she still listens to the podcast, then she's finding. Sorry, Mom.
What a brilliant move, though.
Imagine how fucking scarred she had to be going upstairs, and she's like, that kid's just smoking weed and jerking off? What the fuck? I swear to God, we never talked about it.
Oh my God.
The next morning, she drove me to school because she didn't work the night shift. Mm-hmm. Nothing, not a peep. And I was like, it's kind of one of those things, like, you can only get away with it once.
Yeah, well, because then otherwise it's chronic, right?
Yeah.
You've got a problem.
You've got more than one problem. This kid just won't stop fapping, but if there are any young lads out there, it's a great excuse. Try and use it sometime.
Please don't encourage.
What are they going to do? Come back in the room? Like, put that thing away. I want to talk to you.
You're standing outside the door. Okay, tell me when it's down.
Yeah. I think, like, that also, like, if I was actually doing that, that's one thing I've never been caught doing before, is having some solo time.
You're too stealthy.
That's got to be the most vulnerable, like, you can be. Like, you have let your entire guard, like, when you're doing that, you've let your entire guard down.
I will tell you the one moment that is worse, and you may never have to deal with this, is when you and your partner are engaged in extracurriculars and a kid walks into the room.
Oof.
That is the most nightmarish of all scenarios. Even if you've got the door closed and you just, like, you're doing what two people in love do, and then all of a sudden you hear your whole soul leaves your body. You're just like, I will die in this moment.
I'll say this. I've been the kid. It's worse on the kid's end, brother. I'll tell you that.
No, I don't think it is.
It is 100%, because you guys can shake it off and, like, have a laugh or whatever after. It's all coming back to me now, man.
No.
Like, it's fucking. It is one of my core memories that I try and push to the back of my brain. I'm sorry, Mom, if you are listening, but I remember.
It's a tough podcast for your mom.
I was like 10 years old, dude. I was sleeping, and it was one thing. I woke up in the middle of the night to go pee, and I heard the sounds.
Yeah.
I heard the noises, and I was like, what the fuck is going on in there? And I just opened the door, and I saw it, and I was like, Mom? And my dad was like, get out of here. It's like, oh, God. And then it's like, I was laying in bed, and it was like 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
And my old man comes in, and he's like, you okay, buddy? And I was like, yeah, it wasn't like where he could come in and be like, we're just wrestling.
Right,
Like,
it was too.
we'd already had the talk at that point. Like,
you
there's a
knew.
thing that we had in sex ed.
Oh,
like,
boy.
it was like, I saw National Geographic live.
I walked in on my folks one time. It was my mom and my stepdad. But my mom can't sleep with any sunlight coming in the windows.
Yeah.
And we're in the territories where, like, in the summertime, that sun is out all night.
Were
Right?
you like peeping through the window?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I was like,
What I'm saying is my mom used to keep tinfoil to black out the windows in the bedroom, right? Like,
okay.
no light in there at all. So I heard some noises as I was going down the hallway. I think I'd woken up in the night to go pee and was walking past their room to go back to mine.
Same story as mine.
I
yeah.
heard these noises and I was like, what is going on? And I poked my head in the room and then I realized what was happening. But I was lucky enough that it was so dark, I did not see anything.
Yeah.
So I have the memory auditorially. Like, I have the sounds.
I heard my dad make noises I've never heard him make since.
Well, that's probably for the best.
It is.
Last thing you need is, like, him helping you move and he goes to pick up a box and you're like,
I think it's one of the reasons why maybe I'm more of like a subtle, quiet, gentle lovemaker because of the noises that I like. I'll say this, and we'll stop talking about it after this, but there is one position I refuse to do because of that. Because of that.
All right.
Because of that.
Get after it, Rick.
Oh, my God,
Good
man.
for him. Good for them.
God, it is it's a scarring moment, and you know what? Surprisingly, something I haven't talked about therapy, but I do feel better
There we go. Yeah.
talking about it now.
Why would you want to talk about it in the privacy of a therapist's office in a one-on-one session when you can talk about it with your friend in a podcast that will be heard by hundreds and hundreds of people? It's much healthier.
Hey, every kid's got their trauma, and I'm curious on how much stuff that like you have kind of put to the wayside because your parents were like, oh, like don't worry about it, that they kind of like are like, holy fuck, we got away with that one.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Things that you like as a kid either saw or almost saw, or you were like on the precipice of, that like your parents were able to hand wave it away, of like what you think happened did not. They basically gaslight you. Parents gaslight their kids all the time into thinking like, oh no, what you thought you saw or thought you heard or thought happened, of course didn't. You're just a kid. Don't worry about it.
If you walk in on your parents, they just Santa Claus you. Is what that's what they do. They pretend like it's not what you think it is.
They throw presents at you.
Some parents might. Some parents might give you some presents just to help the scars, you know? Buy your love a little more.
All you hear is, get out of here. Then 20 minutes later, they're like, hey, buddy, want a new bike?
Want to go for a hot dog? No, Dad. No.
Getting Santa Claus in that context also sounds like it's something bad. I don't know why. I don't know what getting Santa Claus would mean between two consenting adults.
Yeah.
But I'm not happy about
Parents
it.
be telling them fables, man. What's the biggest lie you've ever told your kids?
Oh, that I love them both equally. I'm kidding.
That is bullshit that parents say. I know where I stand with one of my parents.
Sure, but I mean, they don't know yet, so I'm not going to tip it off on this podcast.
You should never tell them. That's such a messed up thing to do, to sit them down one day and be like, so there's rankings here. You know that, right? Like,
What is this shit they do on YouTube? So here's my tier list of children in my home. 1A.
we'll do a bad draft of your kids one day. See who comes number 1 and 2. Actually, that wrestling movie with Zac Efron, what was that called?
Oh, the one about the Von Erichs.
The Iron Claw.
Yeah.
The dad actually does that in the movie, where he's like, he's moved up to number 1, you're number 2, you're number 3, 4, 5.
To be fair, though, that's the thing. You have to have 5 or 6 kids before you can start legitimately ranking them.
Yeah.
I've only got the 2. Like, which one is my favorite depends on the day. Like, one of you is being a shit right now.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the first kid might have been the first kid, but he might not have been the number 1 overall pick. He could have been second round, 36 pick, you know? Just because they came out first.
I would have to say, and again, this is for, if you're listening with your kids, maybe this is not the best thing for them to hear, but I would say, like, the biggest lie has probably just been about the holiday figures, right? The Easter Bunny, the Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, that stuff. Although this was the year, both my 8-year-old and my 10-year-old told me, they're like, Dad, we know it's you. So, man, I'm going to save so much fucking money at Christmas this year. And I told them that. I was like, you ruined it for yourself.
As long as they don't ruin it for other kids, though.
That was the first
That's
talk
the biggest
we had.
thing.
The first talk we had, like, I played it coy until they fully admit, cop to, hey, we know that this is you, blah, 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 blah. And then it was like, okay, listen up. It's fine that you know. In the house, we can all talk about it very openly. Y'all got to shut the fuck up when you're around other kids unless you know that they know.
Unless some kid's being like an absolute prick to you.
No. You cannot
You
weaponize
whisper it in their
kids
ear.
like that. You can't. I can't even give them the thought that they're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Because my 8-year-old, he will absolutely, the first time someone says something like negative about Mario, he's going to be like, oh yeah? And just decimate that kid's soul.
Just crush a kid. It's funny, the things that like kids learn and like you don't realize like what's normal in your family versus something else. Like I remember being at school and kids like say something and you're like, what the fuck goes on in your house? Like,
yeah, and then you got to try and do the research, right? is that kid the weird one?
Or am I the weird one?
Or am I the weird one and I'm just finding out about it because every kid does it the way that kid does?
Yeah.
Because that's a bummer feeling when you're like, look at this fucking guy. Can you guys believe this? And everybody's like, yeah, we all do that too. And you're like, oh, fuck.
Being the one kid that's like, ew, you guys got pubes? That's gross. And then all of a sudden you realize you're the one kid who doesn't have pubes yet. And you're like, oh, shit.
Well, I mean, if you're only in your mid-20s, you still got time. It'll be fine.
Man, that was a weird one. I remember in like 7th, 8th grade in gym class, there was like pube showing contests and people would like
what?
Yeah, the fellas were interesting. Everyone was like showing off their body hair and I remember like looking down and I was like, I've got 4. I legit like I had no body hair until I was like 16. I mean, I still don't really have much body hair.
Pause. This hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Right? You got 4 chest hairs.
Yeah.
Literally, we can count them.
I've got more than 4 pubes now, though. I can tell you that.
Well done.
But like, I didn't get armpit hair until I was like close to 17, and then like even my legs were pretty bare. I remember some dudes would make fun of me in like grade 9, grade 10 gym class. Be like, "What do you shave your legs?" And I remember wanting to be hairy, which is funny, is because like I've got some Italian homies that are hairy.
Sure.
Fuck.
Yeah.
And like last weekend, I was talking with my buddy Gazzola, and he's like, we were actually having the same conversation. He's like, I wish I wasn't hairy.
Right.
Like, you have no idea how much it sucks.
But I think there's a middle ground. Like I think I'm just north of that middle ground myself. Like, I'm a fairly hairy guy.
Yeah.
I think that there's a middle ground between I don't have any body hair at all and I have Italian genetics. You know what I mean? There's that middle ground of like, I grew chest hair and it made me the envy of all the other kids when I was growing up, but also I don't feel like I'm wearing a sweater at all times, even when I'm in the swimming pool.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Like, I have a mustache now that some of my Italian friends had when they were 12 years old.
Sure. Yeah,
it's insane, dude. And I always was like, oh man, I'm so jealous. Like, they'd have chest hair and stuff. But like, the way they talk about it is like, dude, I go to the beach and I'm like a fucking wildebeest.
Yeah. Oh no. There's so many downsides to having chest hair that you wish you could. It's one of those things you wish you could go back to like your younger self who was like looking in the mirror, looking for a chest hair and be like, just wait.
Yeah.
You don't need to rush into this.
Yeah.
It's not as great as it seems.
Well, I remember like hearing the thing that like if you shave a lot, like then your facial hair will
grow back
come in
faster. Yeah.
I thought that was the same way downstairs. So like in the 8th grade, I was just shaving skin. I was like, oh, I need to have some pubes to show off to the boys.
It's like you're using a fucking Gillette to try and lure the pubes out. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they just come in all wiry and stuff. And then I'd be like, doesn't look like what my dad's look like. What's going on here?
And now we're back in the bedroom.
Yeah. Hey, everyone's seen their old man's business before. No?
Well, my dad left when I was young, so maybe.
Oh, yeah.
My stepdad.
You just saw his ass as he was leaving.
Wouldn't it be weird if your dad left while I'm just going to the store to get milk? Wear your fucking pants, Dad.
First, he scars you by the noises.
No, that was my stepdad. As far as I know, my biological dad only had sex one time, and here I am.
Yeah.
We're just gonna keep it that way. We don't need to think about it being any other way than that.
But going back to body hair, like, do you think that's something that's gonna make a comeback? Because like 70s, 80s, like,
true.
You know, Burt Reynolds, right? Chest hair, all this stuff. I mean, like, fashion kind of makes its circles. Like everything that was popular in the 90s is kind of coming back again.
I think we're past the manscaping phase where like guys were like fully shaving their chest and all the trimmings and all that stuff. But I don't see us going back to the full pelt stage of that being like the Burt Reynolds stuff like that. I think there's a happy medium that people are understanding of like, I like a little bit of warmth in the wintertime, but I don't like sweating like I'm a mop when I'm in the summer. Yeah. It's like too much hair is just gross, man. It's just awkward and uncomfortable.
It's got to be weird to be the little spoon if you have like a lot of back hair, especially like for the girl, like if you're being big spoon and you just get like hair in your mouth. Like I get mad when I'm snuggling Courtney and her hair gets in my face and I'm trying to push it away.
I was going to say, if that's the case, if there are women out there that are listening to this podcast, first of all, thank you for being here. It makes our bosses very happy and we're happy to have you. But if there are women out there who are in the big spoon position, getting hair in their mouth, dealing with that from their men, Now you know.
Payback's a
Now
bitch.
you know how it feels. From every guy that ever dated or slept with a girl with long hair, now you get it.
Yeah.
And yes, it's grosser that it's back hair as opposed to the long hair on your head.
It's
but
slightly
still.
sweaty. They're curly too, right?
Stop!
Oh, God.
I had a point, and you're really backtracking on it here because now I feel bad.
It's worse, finding a hair in your food or sleeping and finding a hair in your mouth.
Oh, if it's not your hair, the sleeping one.
Yeah,
For sure. Anytime in any scenario where someone else's hair ends up in your mouth, it's a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bad time.
You ever have one of those moments where you're just like, and then all of a sudden you're like, where the fuck did this come from? It's funny. Courtney will do it to me all the time. She'll like look at my like clothes and she'll be like, whose black hair is this? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what woman I brushed up upon.
Well, yeah, because you got no excuse, right? You work with a bald man.
Yeah.
So you can't even be like, oh, fucking Dolby was shedding again today.
Yeah.
You just got to be like, I don't know where this came from. I'm
Yo,
so
a great
sorry.
prank to plant on like one of your friends is like, take some hair from your girlfriend's. This is fucked up, actually.
It was so fun to watch you have a moment of clarity in the middle
It's a
of
lot
this.
of effort to fuck over a buddy, but take like some hair from your girlfriend's brush and then just
Plant
like,
it on him.
you gotta hope they have different color hair and then like sprinkle it around the apartment or something. Put it in his car. I've seen one where it's like dudes go on the job site and they'll take what are they called? Like hair bands for ponytails.
Oh, yeah,
and then
yeah,
throw
yeah.
them in their buddies' work trucks.
Oh, I have seen
That's
that.
some devious shit.
That's some awful. I'm all for a good prank with the boys, but like, I don't know, man. You could really fuck up someone's life with that one.
Shouldn't have canceled plans. Should have came out for drinks. Used to be pretty cool 6 months ago. She changed you, man. We can get rid of her.
Well, on that note, we are well past our 30 minutes.
Mom, if you are listening, I'm sorry. Courtney, I'm sorry for lying. To any children that are listening, I'm sorry as well, I
Just
guess.
in general. For the kids, take a blanket sorry for all topics covered.
Yeah.
But you learned something.
Yeah, we learned something. Don't steal.
Yeah,
right?
don't steal.
That was important.
Don't go into your parents' bedroom. Ever.
Yeah.
Just ever.
At least knock first. That's, you know what, if there's anything to take away,
Knock first.
It's knock first.
In all situations, knock first.
Yeah, you don't know what's behind the door, all right? It's like a game show. All right, that's going to do it for us. We'll be back live on Monday, and we'll have some clips from the show for you. But don't forget, follow us on Instagram, Brock and Dalby, the Brock and Dalby Show on Facebook as well. If you want to follow us on our personal Instagrams, yours is just Dalby.
I'm either Dolby or Dolby FM on everything.
Yeah.
So you can find me that way. And you're pretty much just an Instagram guy these
Yeah,
days.
Brock.Lewis. Follow me on Instagram. And all right, we're going to get out of here. And I'm going to go plant some hairs in my buddy's bedroom.
Stay the fuck away from my car.
All right, y'all keep it sexy. Have a great weekend.
Bye, everybody.
For more Brock and Dalby, tune in weekday mornings 5:30 to 9.
The Brock and Dalby podcast is brought to you by badshop.ca, the Brock and Dalby merch store. With all proceeds going to the Canadian Cancer Society.